Can you see my screen?
Yeah. Did you try those array list and linked list? Were you able to achieve something like identify the time frame?
No, I didn't give it a try.
Okay, fine. Yeah. So today we'll be seeing one concept between the equals and hash code that will be required for us to understand how the hash map internally works. So next concept, when we start looking into hash map, we need a basic understanding on hash code and equals method. So you can just give a class name with hash code equals contract.
Hash code
Equals contract.
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 I'm not getting it. Content or contract?
Contract. TRACT. Yeah. So why the hash code and equals are interrelated. So we're going to experiment that now. So you can have your main method in this. And create one Pojo class, anything, your wish, any object, employee or student, whatever you wish to. Create one Pojo class.
Red student one.
Yeah, you can take student. Yeah. Have two attributes, one as ID with int, another one with name. Create a constructor, the parameter is constructor, to accept the ID and name and get it assigned.
This one is
Have the parameter as the constructor, same int ID and string name as the parameters. Yeah. Okay, and create the getters and setters.
it's a shortcut, right? Great.
Yeah, right click, go to source. Yeah, and go for generate getters and setters.
For both
Yeah.
attributes, right? ID.
Yes, yeah, for both. Okay. Now go to your hash code equals contact. Save this file and go to the other one which you have created, the contact file. So create two objects with student in the parameterized constructor way. Within that ID and name. Give some 3 digits or 4 digits ID value. Yeah. And after that, yeah, once you create, you let me know.
Yeah.
Okay. So after line number 5, just have your s1 dot hash code method. Hash code and assign it to an integer variable. And print that variable in the next line. Just have s1 hash code just in the string so that you can be identify the difference when you have it in console.
Okay.
And print variable var. And just copy the same 6 and 7 and do it for the second object. And here instead of s1, give it s2. So before going into the execution part, can you just click on the hash code method and go to the object.class file once you save this? Yeah. So here you can see that this method is with native keyword, which we haven't explored so far. So what is this native keyword? But it returns an integer value. So we don't have any implementation, but it gives you some output. So how is it happening in the backend? So the native doesn't mean like you need to have your own piece of code. It is something already taken care in the other languages. So the native languages for Java are C and C++. So the implementation of this hash code logic to generate the integer value is already being taken care in the JVM by C and C++ language, has already been implemented. So whenever you use this method hash code, it is only like you're going to use those methods and you're not going to write the implementation explicitly for your object.class. So whenever you call this method, you'll get the relevant value, but not sure or how is it happening in the backend. But you'll get an int value, that is for sure. But how is it happening in the backend? So we had a conversation earlier, like whether the hash code is a memory address or not, right? So to that part, the hash code is not a memory address, but it is getting generated with the help of the memory address location. So all the objects whichever are getting created will have some kind of memory address reference created in your heap memory. So for example, if you're creating employee E1, say example, it will be created with a reference say 2500. And if you're creating employee E2, it will be created with some other reference say 5000. So whenever the hash code is getting generated, it will not be 2500, but it will use the 2500 as part of one input to get the final value of your hash code method. So how is it happening? So since right now, if you use the hash code method, you'll not be able to see implements, but you'll have the relevant output. So the first point which we need to understand on the hash code is it is not a memory address, but the hash code is getting generated with the help of the memory address of each object. So that is the first point we need to know. So now you can go to the contact and execute that program. So if you see both the objects student having different inputs, but you'll get a unique value. So if you create one more object, you'll get a unique value. So how is this hash code helping us to create unique value every time is based on the memory address and few other internal logic to generate the integer value. We are getting or achieving the final value of hash code every time as a unique one. So is it a way that we can override this hash code value? Because if you see right now, this hash code is coming from object.class. We are not having it from the student.class. Though you're calling it from student object S1, it is implemented from the object.class. Why is it so? Why the student object is referring to object.class? Any idea?
So object class is the supermost class for any class.
Yes. So object class is a supermost class. That is the reason. Okay. But for example, if we need to override that, so what happens if I override the hash code method? So if you want to use your own logic for hash code, I don't want something which is too high, like which is like 10 digits number. I just want something which is very relevant and I can understand the hash code value. So I want to override that method. So how can you override that method? Now, can you go to student.java? And now here, just give control space and you'll be able to see the hash code method. Just give override that. Select it and give enter. So you will be able to see the super.hash code. So now if you run again your program, save this file and then run it again. I think your student.java was not saved.
Yeah.
So still it is with the same value, what you have achieved previously from your object class, because it is pointing to your super class, which is object.class. So now let's comment that and return just give return 1, 2, 3, 4. Give a hard-coded value. Yeah. Yeah. Now execute your program. So do we get for both the objects same value or will it vary?
Same value.
Same value. But is it a right approach? Because if you go to the object.class, can you go a little up for the hash code? Yeah. So it returns a hash code value for the object, right? It returns a hash code value. And can you little scroll down little? Okay, it's for equals method. Okay, fine. Yeah.
This commando.
Yeah, can you just go to the hash code method? Yeah. So scroll little up above the hash code. So you'll have the content which is described over there as a comment. Okay, yeah, in the line number 94, right? Can you just read that line?
As far as is reasonably practical, the hash code method defined by class code object returns distinct integers for distinct objects.
So distinct integers for distinct objects, right? This is what they are giving. But there's also one more contradictory statement on the line number 94, as far as reasonably practical. So we are going to experiment that as well as the second line. So if you see, we need to give distinct integers. But if I override and if I'm giving my own value, if I comparing two objects hash code, then it always end up equal, true result. So result end will be always true because both the objects are returning the same hash code value, which is not a right way to implement. So what we're going to do is, right, go to student.java and we're going to write our own logic by returning a unique ID. So instead of giving 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm going to return the ID, which is having the student ID. So every time the student ID is a primary key in my student object. So what I can give that as the unique value to return in case of my hash code. So you can just give ID or this dot ID, save it, and then now execute your program. So you had the unique values which are easily addressable by your own input which you have passed. But is it a right way? We are going to check that. So now after line number 10, can you just create two strings? Two strings. String, yeah. Two string objects with different values. No, create as a new object, not as a literal new string of.
This is fine.
The same line, 6 and 7 line, just copy it and then paste it. Line number 6 and 7.
This one is already used. These two lines, right?
Yeah, 6 and 7. Just copy both. Rename the result also. You can have RES instead of that. No, it's still internal. Okay, you're giving like that. Okay, cool. Then copy the entire string and have one more copy as string str2 and give some other input. Okay. In line number 18, give str2 and store that in var2. Okay. So now if you go to the hash code method of this string, can you go to that one? Just control and click the hash code method. Yeah. So now if you see here, this is not native method. If you see here, it has its own logic. So we are checking whether h is equal to 0 and we are comparing the values. If it is equal to 0, we are returning true, or else we are returning the relevant hash value which we are obtaining finally. So they have some more implementation. So how we had our own logic in student.class by returning employee ID or student ID, the same way they had their own implementation in string class. So now if you execute your program, so the hash code value which you received is something different based on the implementation logic of that string class. So what is the difference between this hash code as well as of object creation from your literals. Let's see that as well. Now create one more string. Instead of new string, just give it as a literal. String str3 equal to, give me FB, capital letter FB.
FB.
FB. No, B for book. Yeah. And give str4.
The same line you can do, right?
No. What did you say?
You can give it in the same line,
Yeah,
right?
you can give it in same. Yeah. str4 equal to capital E and small a. And now can you just print both the hash codes either in single line or in the separate lines, your wish. But print the hash code. str3 dot hash code. I think you need to give some semicolon after 21, after the end of the line. Okay. So far, like either you got the hash code method from object.class or from string.class, we had a unique value, right? Now execute your program. I think your battery is getting drained.
After this, I will connect my charger and come back.
Yeah, sure. We can get it. No issues.
So here in this case, we are getting the same value.
So we are getting same values. So we might have a question like, will hash code written every time unique value or will it written even same values? Now can you go to your object.class? So as per that statement given by them under the hash code method, as far as is reasonably practical, the method defined by the class returns distinct integers for distinct objects. So it is not like 100% guarantee like your hash code will return a unique value every time. It might also have a same value for different objects. So we can't trust this particular hash code every time. So how are we going to resolve this issue, this particular contradictory issue? So for that purpose, we have something called equals method. So before going into that, so the first thing we need to understand here is, now go to your equals contract class, the hash code equals contract class.
Okay.
And after line number 23, just give me a print str3 dot equals of str4.
One moment, I'll connect charger.
Yeah, sure.
Sneha, at least today can you able to upload that last class video?
Yeah, I uploaded. Sorry to inform you, Janaki. I uploaded today only. You can
Okay. Because morning
that
also I
was a
checked. I
discussion on
couldn't see.
algorithm. So you can check on that. It's not related to the last class. So this is a new topic.
Okay. This is hash code topic. That is array based array list you have discussed, right?
Yeah. I took the arrays as array list.
Okay.
And then the program which we were trying to solve on the previous day, right? The coin which we discussed.
Yeah, I'll have a look. Yeah, okay.
And have you created your repository in GitHub?
Oh, yeah, I have done that.
Yeah, you just shared me your repo link to me. It's a public repo, right?
Post this class, I'll do that.
Yeah. Now just have str3 dot equals of str4. In sysout, you just print that.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah. Because it returns Boolean, will not be able to see the result. So just go to that equals method, control and click and go to that equals method. So if you see here, this is coming from string.class. Internally, what is happening is this double equal to and the object whichever you're passing. So the double equal to is nothing but the check is happening on your references and not on the content. So the first part, the checks is the reference part. So now as per your execution of string 3 hash code and string 4 hash code, the references are 2236. So 2236 is equal to 2236. This would be the actual result set, because it is actually looking for a reference and not for my content. Now go to the object.class equals method. You can give control and go to equals. So if you see again here, this is again comparing the references. So in the above, you can see the reference object with which to compare. This is what's happening here. So for string 3 and string 4, the references, whatever you're creating, the object memory location would be 2236. Just for understanding, I'm saying it as memory address, but it is not the actual memory address. So when I'm comparing that, would it return me true or would it return me false? Can you just execute and see? Sorry.
Yeah. I thought it will return false earlier, but after you explain, I think it will return true.
Yeah, we'll see that because it is from string class. We can't say it is also from object class, right? So if you see here, right now the references are, though the references are same, my result is still false. Why is it so? Because this particular equals method is coming from which class? Can you just give control and go? Is it coming from object class or from string class?
So it was coming from string class. I think. Okay.
It is coming from string class. So in string class, we have our own logic. Though we check that if the object references are equal, we return 2. Otherwise, we are going into and checking that whether it is an instance of string, and then we are doing again in string equals method in 1827. Can you go to that equals method? So what are we doing here? We are comparing the values and we are not comparing the references. So here what happens, the first str3 has FB and str4 was having EA. Though the length are equal, the values are not same. So it ends up with the false value. Now, can you go to your contract class, create 2 more objects of string, like as you did in 21 line, create 2 more things and just have the same input. Give same FB. Yeah. Now do in the sysout string 5 dot string 6. Also in the next line, print string 5's hash code and string 6 hash code together. Yeah, you can execute now. So if you see the content are equal in 5 and 6. So my equals method should return me true. You can proceed. And let's see hash code is giving me true or same values or different values.
Same values. That's true.
So it is returning me the same hash code values. Okay, but my equals is true. So we will get 2 points here. So you can note it down on the comment section. So you can, so that it will be easy for you to compare what we're trying to say now. So the first point is if my 2 objects are equal, like in line number 28, if my 2 objects are equal, my hash code is also same, 2236. That is your first point. If my 2 objects are equal, hash code remains same or same hash code. Their hash code will be same. Okay, if you see the line number 21 in string 3 as FB and string 4 as EA, though my hash code was same, the equals was returning me false. So in that condition, so if two objects hash code are equal, hash codes are equal, we can't guarantee that objects are equal. So these are the 2 points we understood from our experiment. Now, if you go to your student.class file, so far we have overridden only the hash code method, right? So we are returning our own logic. But what is the relationship between hash code and equals? If hash code is returning me the same value, my objects can be same value or may not. So I can't guarantee that. So to confirm that and to make sure, even if I get hash code same, my equals written also returning the same, only then I'll trust you. Otherwise, I won't trust you. For that purpose, what we're going to do is we're going to override our equals method as well. So now you can override equals method. So this is again super dot equal. So we need to write our own logic. So can you just give return true? No, right? Don't give any other condition. Just give return true. Okay. Now go to your hash code file. We are using student object, right? Where is the student object? Can you go up? We have having S1 and S2, right? Now here, after line number 10, just give me like S1 dot equals S2 and print them. Dot equals of S2. Okay. Yeah, now execute it. So if you see that return me true. So you create one more object like line number 8 and 8, 9, 10. Just create one more copy and have S3 as object. No, don't create like that. Okay, we'll do like this. So in the next line after line number 11, just give student S3 equal to S2. So we are reassigning our S2 object through S3. Okay, now try to compare S3 dot equals of S2.
This will return true only, right?
Sorry.
So this will return true only, right?
Yeah.
Since we have overdone.
Yeah, we are just cloning the object of S2 to S3.
No, I mean, this when you see this implementation, it will always.
Yeah, that will be true. Yeah, we need to override that. But right now we are hard coding it with true. So we'll get only as true anytime, whatever data is. So this is not a right way of hard coding the result set because equals to is dependent on the content and not on the object references. So if you give true, every time your data would be remaining same. So why are we working on this equals and hash code is there's a data structure called as hash map, which we'll be learning by tomorrow. For that purpose, we need to understand how the data is getting stored in hash map and why, and these equals and hash code are very much important when we use our hash map. So we need to know like when we need to implement the equals method and our own logic and when not. What happens if you're not overriding equals and if you're overriding only hash code? So that is the experiment we're trying now. So now if you go to your student.java, so every time, whenever you're customizing your equals method, like writing your own logic on the override method of your thing, it's always better to compare it with your object references, like whatever attributes you create in your student class. With that, we are going to compare and return the same value. So whenever you're writing your own logic, since in hash code you have used only this dot id, you're using only id, your equals method also should depend only on id. And based on that, you have to return your result set. So what I'm going to do is now, within the equals method, we'll have our logic. So you can comment that return to, create one if condition. If my the current object is equal to obj, double equal to obj, return true. Next, the second condition in if my obj instance of is a keyword which helps you to identify whether that is a student object or not. So instead of double equal to, have instance of keyword. If obj space instance of, give control space, you'll be able to get that. No, without space. Yeah. Instance of your class name student. Okay. And we are going to return false when it is not a student object. So you can give if not equal to object of instance of student. So you're just going to add not equal to in front of your entire obj instance of student. Have one more bracket so it will be easy for you to understand. After that, and close it with the one bracket and return false. Now, every time you get an object that is only obj, the object class, the topmost class, right? But we need to compare the student class. So what we are going to do is typecast your student object. So after line number 49, your obj object typecast.
48. So for line number 48, do we need to have else part?
No else part, like only these two. And now whatever you're achieving final result set, that will be the return statement. So now here, before giving a return, just typecast to your student object. Student and create one reference equal to typecast your obj.
I'm not getting it. Before return.
No, don't give return. Just typecast your obj to student object. How do you typecast your obj? So create a reference of student. And for typecast, we use brackets, and within that you give the class name.
This is the correct way?
No. You have to have the actual class name which you're typecasting. So student, have st as your object name equal to, now within the bracket, have your student as your object, like the class reference which you're trying to typecast. And outside that, you have your reference obj which you have received in your equals method. Now, after this, give return id equal to st dot id and object, like you can have, okay, there's one more class called objects. Just give obj ects objects caps, yeah, dot equals, and within that you can give your two objects, id comma st dot id. And semicolon. You have to import it like this. The objects class. So, okay, what happened?
Yeah.
You're using single equal to, give double equal to. After id equal to, give double equal to. Yeah, okay. So what are we doing is, since the hash code is dependent only on id, we are using the same id. We are comparing the references and we are comparing the data as well. So that is the reason we have used objects dot equals. Even you can give id dot equals of st dot id. Both are same. So now if you run your, save this file and now go and do your comparison.
Shall I run it?
Yeah, you can run it. So what happens if for the line number 11 is out, that ends up with false because the input of ID is 101 and 102. So you ended up with false. Whereas in the other one, S3, you had assigned the S2 object directly to S3. So both the IDs are same. So, and values are same. Reference is same and IDs are same. So what happened? It ended up with true. So this is the way we can customize our own equals method. So say suppose you wanted to even consider name as your parameter when you're evaluating the equals method. So in that case, what we can do is in the hash code method. So if you can you open the objects class which you used in line number 53. Just give control and go there. Yeah. Can you give control O? There is a method called hash. Can you go there? So the hash is a object. So object array. So which can give n number of values. And internally there's a hash code logic happening. Can you go to that hash code method? Arrays.hashcode. So what is happening is if my array is null, I'm returning 0. Else I'm doing a logic here. 31 into result plus some logic and I'm implementing hash code. Why specifically 31? Because the hash code is something which gives a unique integer value. And here they have used a prime number to implement it. So in interview perspective, or even in like few places when you're writing your own program, we need to override our hash code method and equals method if your particular employee object or student object is dependent on, we are using map or hash map or tree map, any kind of map. And in that case, we actually override hash code and equals method. Whenever we are overriding hash code and equals method, you can have your own logic. You can have your own prime number, or you can use more than a larger value than 31 and create a stronger hash code so that the data will not be deep. It is more secure. That is the first reason we always prefer a highest number, highest prime number. And based on that, we'll generate our own hash code value. And if you're not like, I don't want to write my own logic, I just want to use third-party libraries, then you can just go to objects.hash method and give your input. It will provide the final integer value for your hash code. So you can either write your own logic as they have implemented, or you can just use object.hash method. Either way, you can use them. But the main purpose of using a bigger value is to be more secure and unique. So now you can go to your student.java. Since we are using two parameters, so what I'm going to do is instead of returning this .id, I'm going to give objects.hash of in line number 40. In line number 40, like hash code method, right? Yeah, instead of this .id, I'm going to have objects.hash of. Object is a class. Objects.hash of, and this is an array. So you can give number of parameters you have in your class. You have ID and you have name. Just give ID comma name. So in your case, since you're using ID and name in your hash code, what we can do is in line number 53, you can compare name and not compare the IDs. So in equals, you can just give name comma st.name. Line number 53 at the equals method, give name comma st.name. So you're comparing the names and not the IDs. Yeah, now you save it and now you execute them. Okay. So now you understood like why we need to override equals and why not only hash code. The difference you understood, right? Because hash code can sometimes give you the same hash code reference values. So in that case, your objects are not equal. They might end up with a failure case. So it's always to guarantee that though my hash code is same, my objects also returning same, only then I can consider it as a like 100% valid situation where I can trust the data or the result set. If I'm just dependent on only hash code, I can't. So now to the question, why are we dependent on this hash code or equals? So coming to the point of map. So map is nothing but a dictionary. So let me share my screen. I think this session getting ended up.
Yeah. 1 minute left.
I think it ends in some time. Yeah, it's just 1 minute. So can we rejoin to the second invite?
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.